When it comes to proximal hamstring tendinopathy, deadlifts are often considered too risky and even dangerous, which is why it shocks a lot of people when they learn I give 90% of my clients deadlifts on day one of their rehab, despite how weak they think they are. But I do agree, deadlifts can be dangerous without the right guidance. In fact, a lot of people will see my content, start deadlifts, get a huge flare up, and they're too scared to try their deadlifts again. So I want to show you what I do with my clients to mitigate as much risk as possible, while at the same time giving your tendon the right conditions to heal. First, instead of starting from the floor like a traditional deadlift, you're going to start at the top and work your way down. You can do this by picking up a barbell from a squat rack or picking up dumbbells from a bench. I prefer starting at the top so you can manipulate the range of movement, which I'll explain soon. You may have been told that starting at the top is referred to as a Romanian deadlift, or RDL. You may have also heard that RDLs require straighter legs compared to a traditional deadlift. But while I do prefer starting at the top, I do encourage more knee bend than an RDL. To understand why I prefer this method, you need to learn about the role of compression. Your hamstring tendon wraps and attaches itself under and behind the sit bone, causing it to be squashed or compressed by the sit bone when you bend forward. This is why sitting on hard surfaces, stretching, and hinging movements reproduce symptoms. Even if these tasks cause some pain, it's a helpful reminder that the movement itself isn't contributing to more tendon damage, especially if it's within sensible limits. Think of it just like poking a bruise. But one critical aim of rehab is to get your tendon to gradually tolerate more and more of this compression. This is the only way you can start tolerating more uphill running, longer sitting, and bending over. It is for this reason why deadlifts with more knee bend is a staple in my list of exercises. But this is where it becomes a tricky juggling act. We want to challenge the tendon enough so it can adapt to more compression, but we don't want to overdo things and cause a flare-up. You can find this sweet spot by following two pain rules. Rule number 1, pain during your deadlift should be less than a 4 out of 10. Everyone interprets and rates pain differently. My interpretation is anything between a 1 to 3 is noticeable, but at low enough levels that you still feel confident lowering and lifting the weight without hesitation or compensation. Rule number 2, pain returns to baseline by the next morning. For example, you can do your deadlifts pain-free, but if your tendon is more stiff and sore than usual the next morning, it's a sign that you have done too much. In that case, give the tendon relative rest for 1 to 2 days, and once symptoms have settled, you can make the necessary adjustments and try again. When I assign a starting point for my clients, I prefer to start really conservative, with weight a lot lighter than they think. And for a lot of my deconditioned clients, it's not uncommon for me to start them at 5 to 10 pounds in each hand. This approach mitigates risk, and the only downside being potentially underloading the tendon initially. But you'll pass the 2 pain rules with ease and can progress then sensibly from there, eventually tapping into that adaptation sweet spot. In addition to lighter weights, another conservative measure that I prefer is to reduce the range of movement. Having the hands go just past the knees is considered half range of movement and is a safe starting point for most. But if you want to be more cautious, keeping the hands above the knees at 1/4 range is perfectly fine too. Because everyone's starting point will be different, it is now up to you to experiment with 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps at whatever weight and range you find is conservative, and use those 2 pain rules to assess whether it was successful. From there, it's time to progress. My advice for most is to do your deadlifts every 2 to 3 days and progress in very small amounts every time you pass those 2 pain rules. For example, if doing 3 sets of 8, reduce the reps down to 6 and add a little bit of weight. The next progression, keep the weight the same and bump the reps back up to 8. When deciding to increase the range, progress 1 set at a time. Once again, after each session, re-evaluating the pain rules to see if you're on track. Some of you may think it's wise to progress from double leg to single leg deadlifts. In my experience, I haven't found this to be a wise move because now you're dealing with changes in balance, it's now harder to control the tempo and consistently hit the required range, and the pulling on the tendon is at a slightly different angle. So keep it simple and just progress the double leg deadlifts. However, the deadlift movement itself isn't really natural for most of us. And when I assign this to my clients, I see a lot of common faulty patterns that hinder their healing potential. So listen closely. When lowering the weight, keep it in contact with your body. Don't move it away. Next, keep your shins and arms vertical throughout the entire movement, doing a 4-second lowering phase and a 2 to 3 second up phase, even if it's a reduced range of movement. Also make sure your chest comes up over the bar rather than behind. If you can do all of these while maintaining a neutral lower back position, you're setting yourself up for success. And if you're having pain when sitting, unfortunately, it won't get better until you build up this tolerance for compression with heavier deadlifts. But while you're waiting for your strength to naturally rebuild, you can watch this video on sitting tips to immediately settle pain and how to return to longer sitting more comfortably.